When we think of space exploration, we often picture an ecosystem built on extreme wealth and institutional power. It is an arena defined by billions of dollars in funding, ranks of supercomputers, and decades of entrenched infrastructure. Yet occasionally, a mind emerges completely outside of that carefully engineered ecosystem. Someone born miles away from the nearest modern laboratory, completely disconnected from that grid of privilege. Picture growing up in a remote Yemeni village. Electricity is intermittent at best. Advanced technology is non-existent. The societal expectation is survival, and aiming for the stars is treated as a literal impossibility. So how does a mind shaped by that exact isolation end up in the room with the world's elite aerospace engineers? We assume severe deprivation destroys potential, but sometimes intense physical constraint acts as a cognitive pressure cooker. It forces a person to develop an incredibly adaptable, unconventional way of processing problems. To navigate the deepest, most hostile parts of the universe, the ultimate requirement isn't necessarily a heavily funded machine. It is a mind already trained to survive in a vacuum. During his early years, there were no beakers, no telescopes, and no mentors pushing him toward high-level science. Without access to physical equipment, he had to build a laboratory inside his own head. While his peers studied simply to pass the next required exam, he spent years independently deconstructing textbooks to map out the actual mechanics of the physical world. He was building mental models of how things moved, failed, and connected. When you operate entirely on trial and error without a safety net, you develop an extreme tolerance for getting things wrong. A failed attempt wasn't a reason to quit, it was a fresh data point necessary for the next iteration. By the time he reached higher education, this scrappy internal methodology had built an intellectual foundation far more resilient than traditional rote memorization. The real test came when he left his home country. He faced an immediate, severe cultural shock, a completely foreign language, profound daily isolation, and the quiet skepticism of peers who had trained in the world's most comfortable institutions. He had no financial backing or social connections to lean on. His only available leverage was raw, applied science. He had to prove his worth mathematically. The opportunity arrived disguised as an intractable problem. A highly complex theoretical challenge stumped the well-funded, traditionally trained engineers. They approached it exactly as they were taught, and they hit a wall. He applied lateral thinking to solve problems in probability. Wired by scarcity to make something out of nothing, he didn't attack the wall head-on. Linking entirely unassociated concepts, he bypassed the traditional roadblock, producing a working solution that verified his methodology. Growing up with nothing didn't delay his success. It actively forged the exact unorthodox mental framework required to break a traditional scientific deadlock. This breakthrough led him directly to NASA, where he became a driving force behind critical initiatives. He began developing the complex descent systems necessary for landing hardware on the surface of Mars. His abstract mental models were now translating into physical, deep space machinery. From there, he shifted to improving the advanced propulsion technologies required to push heavy vehicles across the vast, empty stretches of the solar system. This visualization maps the dense field of satellite debris wrapping the globe. It illustrates the massive scale of the orbital mechanics and space data he analyzed to keep modern satellite networks from colliding. The contrast is staggering. A boy who started in a room with intermittent power is now commanding billion-dollar projects and steering humanity's reach across the universe. This movement from isolation to the forefront of NASA follows a logical, repeatable pattern of human persistence. It forces us to ask a difficult question. How many identically brilliant minds have existed in those exact same circumstances, but surrendered because they chose to wait for better resources? The difference lies in a complete refusal to make excuses. If you want to replicate this, the philosophy is brutal but simple. Learn without resources. Start without support. Persist without results. The next time you look up at the night sky, do not look at it as a passive observer. Look at it as an active participant in your own potential. Your proximity to a major ambition depends entirely on the decision to begin the work.